Good evening and a very warm welcome to everyone joining us today. As you are well aware, we are here for the second session of the SIS Career Orientation webinar series with our very own SIS alumni. Confucius once said, "Choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life." Right now is a period of our student lives when we're trying to figure out what that job is. We're trying to find a field of our interest, something that we're passionate about, something we want to be doing for the rest of our lives. And just at the right time, we have an opportunity to hear from our very own seniors that have passed out from SIS, pursued their respective dreams, and are joining us today to share their experiences and what they learned along the way. Before we begin, just letting you know, if you have any questions, feel free to put them up in the Q&A box and they will be covered by our panelists later on. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's panelists. First up, we have Dr. Nandita Rajesh. She has completed her MBBS degree from Tanjavur Government Medical College, Tamil Nadu. So Dr. Nandita, would you like to share a few words?
Hello everyone. Hello everyone.
She appears to have some Wi-Fi issues, so we'll be coming back to her. So we can move on to the next panelist. Next up, we have Miss Marvacella. She has specialized in transportation design at the MIT Institute of Design, particularly in 2D and 3D design and motion graphics. Miss Marwa, I now invite you to share your journey with our avid audience.
Hi everyone, I'm Marvacella. So I'll experience, I'm a transportation designer from MIT Institute of Design. It's a four-year degree course where I took a one-year drop and explore what is design and what I'm supposed to do. And like I used to be an artist before, and then I explored a lot, and then I took one-year drop. I wrote the main entrance exams and I got into Institute of Design in MIT Pune, and now I completed and I joined a startup EV two-wheeler recently and working on that right now.
Thank you, Ms. Marwa. Your courage to explore a new field of expertise and excel in it greatly has definitely left a mark in us all. Next up, we have Mr. Naveen Kelvin. He's currently pursuing his Master's in English Literature from St. Aloysius College, Mangalore. He has been a freelance content writer for over 3 years. An avid reader and creative writer based in Mangalore, India, he has also cleared the National Eligibility Test. I kindly invite you to share your story with us.
Thank you, Lamia, and a warm afternoon or evening to everyone present here. It's kind of very nice and a big privilege actually to come back to school in this different manner, in this virtual manner. So what I will be talking about is practically three things. I will be talking about my journey over the course of my bachelor's and master's, and I'll be giving some advice on a potential career in the academia. And towards the end, I should also be sharing some tips and possibilities about the freelance world. So first of all, I was a student of science in my 11th and 12th at Shantiniketan Indian School. And many of you must be wondering, wait, what is a student of science doing Masters in English Literature for? Well, that is my first point that I want to share, and want to share actually very passionately. Because as a student of science, very early on, maybe in my 11th grade, I realized that although science and the subjects pertaining to science appealed to my curiosity and field of inquiry, it did not necessarily match my aptitude from a career level. So in 11th itself, I got some very good advice from a couple of my teachers that perhaps I should start thinking of different options. And that is important because often in the 11th and 12th, what happens is we think that just because we opted for a particular stream, we need to continue in that stream. And that is not necessarily so. And I need to stress that. In the previous session, I was very happy to see another student from science who is now practicing as a chartered accountant in India. And that is important because increasingly the world is becoming more and more interdisciplinary. And the focus there is to ensure that there is a balance and that one really tries to go for one's passion and not just societal norms. And that's what I did. I always had an interest in writing, and thanks to Shantiniketan, I developed a good interest in public speaking too. So I thought to explore the arts, and I enrolled in a bachelor's course. And my course may interest some of you. It is a triple major, Bachelor's of Arts, in English literature, psychology, and journalism. And I find this balance and this combination to be very useful because it appealed to all of my interests. English literature is a more a theoretical subject that appealed to my creativity. Psychology is a proper soft science, and that field of clinical inquiry was there. And in journalism, I got a hands-on approach to practicing and the side of media. And over the 3 years, I was able to look into my interests and gain a lot of experience. And that's what led me to do my master's eventually, because I stuck with the subject that I first fell in love with, which is literature. However, that does not mean I just abandoned all my other interests. I kept at the core curiosity that the 2 years of science taught me and for which I opted them. I also adopted the worldview I picked up in psychology. I tried to incorporate the work ethics that journalism gave me, and all of this I'm attempting my best right now to apply in my literature. Which brings me to my second point, which is a career in the academics. So there may be many of you amongst you who wish to be teachers going forward. And although perhaps the teachers teaching you can be better guides and mentors about teaching in the school level, I would like to talk about teaching at a level higher, that is in the higher education, be it in your 11th and 12th grade, or more importantly, at the college level or at the research level. So basically what you need in order to teach at this level, bare minimum is a master's degree. And in a country like India in particular, there is a eligibility competitive exam. And you write this exam, and if you score in the creamy layer, that is the top 1%, or in some cases the top 10%, you become eligible to teach. I was fortunate enough to clear that in my first year of master's in literature itself, and which basically means that upon graduation, I can immediately seek a job as an assistant professor, either in a government college or in a private university. More importantly, what these competitive exams do is give you funds for your research. And I think as a student out of a school like Shantiniketan Indian School, all of you should aim, if you're aiming for academia, to aim for the highest and try to complete your PhD. And that is important because increasingly the world is lacking experts today. And I feel that if one has a drive and a motivation to complete their PhD and that intent from early on itself, it is something great. And here's where the academic and the competitive exams come into play, because if you clear it in the top 1%, you get research funds. For instance, I'm currently working on my master's thesis, and just one of the books I have to my left over here, which I'm currently working on, which I borrowed from my HOD, it costs $120 and it has to be imported from the United States of America. Now, $120 is not a sum that you can, realistically and sustainably keep dishing out throughout your research, which is where your fellowship comes in. If you clear a high enough grade in your competitive exams, you get funds from the government itself that will help you clear this. And that is an avenue that you ought to be thinking of. And lastly, I want to talk about something that's completely different, and that is the world of freelancing. And more of today's world is becoming freelance. And unfortunately, because of the way our economy is headed, in the future, career-oriented jobs may not exist, or at least may not exist widely. So what will be the norm, likely the norm going forward, is the gig economy. And what freelancing essentially is, if you have a skill that you're good at, and if you can find a way to monetize it, there is a vast market out there that would wish to hire you over some other expert in that field. And of course, there are a lot of technicalities that go in there. I'll be happy to share it in the Q&A session. But it is important to do freelancing because I found that even though I've done my bachelor's and my master's, I'm yet to earn money by virtue of the bachelor's and master's. However, by virtue of freelancing, that is almost 4 years of content writing, giving trainings in IELTS, becoming a language coach, I'm able to make a sustainable income for myself while still in the degree. And that is something that will be immensely liberating and will give you many options while you are studying. So I would like to request all of you to look at options at freelancing. Try to find what you're good at and see if there is a possible avenue for you to earn money that way. And money should not be because at the end of the day, when it comes to careers, we try to maximize what we can get. And if you're going for passion, you need to also be realistic about it. There was this funny quote I remember reading that if you find the job you love, you would not be working a day in your life because you probably the job you love may not earn enough money. So which is why avenues like freelancing are immensely liberating. And I would be happy to take questions later on with regard to anything about academia, particularly about freelancing. And if anyone is curious about what happens in an English literature classroom, because it is much different from what may necessarily meet the eye. So I look forward to your queries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Naveen, for the astoundingly wonderful experience that you've shared with us. I'm sure we've all gathered great points of information and motivation from your words. Once again, reminding you, just as he said, if you have any questions, feel free to put them up in the Q&A box and we will be getting to you later on. Our next panelist, we have with us Mr. Kellington Edmond. He has completed his Bachelor of Engineering with an honours degree in Mechanical Engineering from the University of Portsmouth in the UK. He's currently working as a full-time swimming pool and water features MEP site engineer at Tadmore Roofs and Pools. He volunteers for charity during his free time and plays cricket. He was the first non-Qatari president of the Students' Representative Council while studying in Cnaq. He was also the captain of the cricket team to their fifth unbeaten Qatar Foundation Inter-University Cricket Tournament. Mr. Kellington, we're all waiting eagerly for the story of your adventurous journey. I now kindly invite you to speak a few words.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, it's a tremendous feeling actually to be back at school. So thanks to you juniors and Shyam sir for organizing this beautiful session that we're having right now. And I think you said pretty much everything I wanted to say in my introduction. So thank you, Lamia, for that introduction. And so basically, I was a science student in my higher school, 11th and 12th, and I was also the head boy in my 12th grade. So once I finished schooling, I mean, like most of you, I was also blank with, there's a lot of options and opportunities thrown at you during that phase in life. So just don't panic, don't be confused. Go and do what your heart and mind asks you to do. So I think that's what I did basically. I was looking for a degree in civil engineering, and apparently there's not much options in Qatar if you're studying here in the engineering field. So I had to opt mechanical engineering in Cnaq, and it was an amazing experience. The 3 best years of my life, I could say, at Cnaq. And I received my higher diploma from Cnaq after finishing my 3rd year, and then I transferred my credits to UK Portsmouth for 1 year to finish and get my degree in mechanical engineering. So that's pretty much what I would like to say for my introduction. And I'm sure so many of you are looking into the engineering field right now. And if you have any questions, all questions are good questions and all doubts are good doubts. So feel free to ask me anything regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kellington. That was quite a tale, and I know we've all found it engaging and inspiring as well. Last but never the least, we have Miss Pooja Takara. She's currently doing her final year in fashion communication at the National Institute of Fashion Technology, Gujarat. Her main interest is fashion photography. Other areas included in her course at NIFT include space design, fashion media, fashion and design thinking, and graphic design. Miss Pooja, I invite you to share your creative and colorful journey with us.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I would say thank you for this lovely opportunity that I've had here to be here and share my entire experience with you all. So, in my high school, I was a Commerce 2 student. And from the very beginning, I would really say from 8th or 9th grade, I was quite stuck on the thing that I wanted to do fashion photography. But back in the days, there were not really much courses you would know much about. And by the time I came to 11th and 12th, I was still stuck to the decision that fashion photography is it. I want to do this. I want to do this. So I started off with looking for a few colleges here and there. First, I was looking into mass communication, but then I came across NIFT, and they had this new course that had come on fashion communication. And I thought that this was it. This was the course for me, and I have to do this. And the interesting part about my entire journey is that not only along with the whole journey that I went through in my college for 4 years, not only I developed my interest more in fashion photography, but I even explored myself to an extent that I came to a realization that I can do much more things. And I think that's all college life is about, exploring yourself and, you know, just doing what you really feel like. So as a career point of view, this course is actually quite upcoming in the market, and fashion's never going to die. It's gonna bring itself back up in the market every time. So it's a really good course. And as a designer, as a communication designer, I think that design as a whole point of view would really change your life and make you look at things really differently. So I really love what I'm doing, and here I am sharing my experience with you all. If there's any questions or anything, please let me know and I'll get back to you with that.
Thank you, Ms. Pooja.
Thank you.
I can say without a doubt that a significant amount of passion, art, and creativity has been sparked in all of us through your endearing account. Now we'll be going back to our first panelist. We have Dr. Nandita Rajesh. Again, just reminding you, she completed her MBBS degree from Tanjavur Government Medical College, Tamil Nadu. So Ms. Nandita, would you like to share a few words?
Hello everyone, I am Nandita Rajesh. I hope it's okay with the internet connection. And here I am to talk about myself. I completed my MBBS degree from Tanjavur Government Medical College. And to tell about my journey in SIS, I joined SIS in the year 2007 when I was in 7th standard. And also we were the first batch to appear for 12th board exam as well. So since we were the first batch, there was so much pressure on the school as well, but our school managed it so well that we were able to score the best we can. And also I was able to top in all the subjects only because of their hard work and because of their blessings. So I would like to thank all my teachers, Salim sir, Tono sir, Shyam sir, and many of them in this session. And also, I would like to thank everyone who have worked under this career orientation workshop. I think it's a great initiative, and I really hope it helps a lot of our students. So in 12th standard, I took biology max as my group. So from childhood, I was always into this medical field. And for that, of course, we'll have to take biology. And along with biology, you can take any other options. It's not compulsory that you have to go for biology max. Why I took biomax is that you can go for medical entrance examination, also engineering entrance examination as well. So after completing my 12th standard, I went 1 year entrance coaching because in order to get a government medical seat, it's not an easy task. So you will have to have a clear-cut basic knowledge in all the 3 main subjects, that is biology, physics, and chemistry. And also you have to score a pretty nice rank in order to get into a government medical seat. And here I am completed my 6 years along with 1 year from my college. And right now I'm preparing for my post-graduation, which is the next step of my life. Again, I will have to face one of the toughest entrance examination. So it goes for 3 years. So for 4.5 years of MBBS along with 3 years of post-graduation. And after post-graduation, you can again go for super specialty, which is again for 2 years. So the journey continues like that. So many of us would be having a great interest into getting this medical field. Of course, if you have that passion or that willingness, you can take this medical profession. It's a great opportunity, and you will be never be depressed. And you can have any questions, and all questions are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nandita. Your encouraging words and your vigor to pursue a novel career such as medicine is truly inspirational. So that leads us on to the next part of this evening's program, which is the Q&A session. And for that, I hand over to Gemaline and Shaurya.
Thank you, Lamia. We'll be now moving into, which is in my opinion, the most interesting part of today's event. We'll be answering all of the questions that you have sent us. So without further ado, let us start. The first question that we'll be answering today is that what are the job opportunities one would get if they did Masters in English Literature? And what services do freelancers offer, and what services are in demand?
Thank you, Shaurya. Yeah, I'll definitely answer both facets. I'll answer the first part of the question first. People often assume, and this is largely due to stigma and taboo around the arts in general, that a literature degree does not hold much value. But you'd be surprised to know that a literature degree in today's economy particularly holds great value. So let me get the most essential jobs out of the way first, the most predictable ones. That is, most people tend to take a master's in particular in literature if they want to teach literature, if they want to become teachers of English at any level, primarily at the master's level, if they want to teach later for bachelor students, or if they want to become a professor in English literature. So that's the most obvious one, number one. Next up is, but again, I'm going to speak more about the Indian context for now, and then I'll move on to the next context soon. Is in India, we have administrative exams, and aspirants of these exams usually tend to opt for English literature as a nice way to, balance their field of inquiry. So if because as an IAS aspirant, they may be placed anywhere. So they prefer having English literature as a backbone in that sense. Next, journalists tend to take MA in English quite often because they prefer the kind of exposure it gives them, the command over language that gives them. And another thing about literature field that is often misunderstood is all people think we do is read stories and maybe type ABCD in the classroom. No, we do not. We actually look at society critically. We look at a text critically, and a text need not be just any novel. In fact, one of the most fun I had in my first year of English literature class was looking at all 7 Harry Potter movies and critiquing them from one angle. I think in one of our early classes, we looked at 3 Idiots, for instance, and tried to discern a God complex in the main character of Rancho. My very first research paper as a student of literature looked at just one song from the popular Game of Thrones franchise, that is The Reigns of Castamere. And I tried to uncover and unwrap the song and compare it to war poetry done in World War I. So that's just a hint of what we can do as literature students. Apart from that, today there's a high demand for PR executives, that is public relation executives, be it for politicians, be it for schools, for instance. So in that regard as well, literature is a very, very popular course to take by because it equips you with all those skill sets. Some people also take literature degree as a side degree if they're pursuing law, for instance. So again, the range is vast. And now moving on to the second question about freelancing. So I'll first speak about my personal experience and probably the easiest freelance job to get. Again, when I say easy, I do not wish to demean the act. Writing is very hard, but increasingly today, content writers are in high demand because more and more businesses and services are offering up websites, and providing content for these websites has become very important. So that's my area of specialty, freelance content writing. and I do it for a wide array. Primarily, I do it as a sports journalist. I write, I cover transfer sagas, I write opinion pieces on matches. So that's my primary gig. And then I also do corporate gigs for clients, wherein if a startups cannot afford all times to hire professional writers, so they tend to hire freelance writers. My most recent project that I concluded just yesterday was writing up investment deck for a startup with regard to the medical field, that is the deck they will be giving to potential investors and getting it from them. So in that regard, that's in high demand. Anything regard to media is in high demand. Because increasingly today's world is becoming one world of content creators. Photoshop, wherein freelance Photoshop, in both regard, wherein you click the photographs and sell them to stock websites, that's in high demand. Or if you are able to edit photographs for these professional websites, those are in high demand. Lastly, again, it's a broad field, but I'm going to stick to what I know and what I can guarantee you is in high demand is when you create pieces of content for certain organizations. Freelance journalists actually function like that, wherein you cover a piece of story, you write an opinion piece. For instance, recently a friend of mine, just before the COVID-19 lockdown, traveled to Kashmir, and she covered all aspects of Kashmir, the beauty of it, as well as the ground reality. And she was able to sell that story to a leading newspaper of India. So that's the basic idea of freelancing. And in both regard, the scope is immense. And as a literature student, if you have that background, you will be opted more. And let me clarify before I end the question that when I talk about freelancing, it can be something that can be picked up at any point. You do not necessarily need a degree to offer up your skills. You just need to be good at what you do. You need to submit your work on time, and it wouldn't hurt if you're a pleasant person to interact with. So I hope that's answered those two questions. Thank you, Shar.
Thank you, Mr. Naveen. That was a truly insightful and eye-opening answer, really. It showed us how there are things in this world apart from math, science, and all that. Thank you once again, Mr. Naveen.
Yeah, so on to the next question is for you, Pooja. So what exactly is fashion photography and how do you become a fashion photographer?
Right. So the question is quite interesting because how do you become a fashion photographer? Honestly, I'll tell you this one thing honestly is that fashion photography or any sort of photography is something that comes within you from trial and error and from interest and passion. And photography, I know people used to think before that photography, or even I can do it, it's just clicking pictures here and there, right? So I thought so too. But when I got into this course, it's so much more. Fashion photography altogether is a lot of work, a lot of teamwork, and you have people running behind you here and there, getting things done. But it's mostly that your concept that sells out, and it's mostly that how you present it, and if you convey your message properly. And it's just an art form. I would really say photography is an art form because you are conveying something to your audience, and that's what's important. And how to become a fashion photographer, um, you don't really need a course or a degree to label yourself as a photographer. You do your work well, you will grow, and people will appreciate you, and you will be seen. And yeah, it's just really about good work. You really need to put yourself in the spotlight over there and really stand out. This industry, the design industry, is, I think, all about standing out and showing your uniqueness in different forms. So yes, I think that answers it all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pooja. And yeah, it's all about being talented and having that kind of like desire. Also,
Yeah.
if you have that kind of mindset, like you want to pursue a career like this, it sort of reflects on what your interest is, right?
Yes,
So yeah, thank you so
definitely,
much for that answer, Pooja.
Thank you.
Now, the next question that we have is for Miss Marwa. So we know you make beautiful things, and as an engineer, you're supposed to do that. But what is your inspiration for making these beautiful designs? Unmute, unmute, unmute.
So
So what is design firstly? Like design is things around us. Everything is design. Even planting a tree is design. So people often confuse what is design to other things. So we need to understand the major elements of design. And like I can actually go somewhere and see like, oh, this can be done. This is a problem. So basically design is solving a problem or understanding the situation and reacting it. So everything is design. Even talking right now is design. So majorly people say like, you know how to sketch, so you can be a designer or architect. There's a major misconception. Even I'm an artist, but I can say like I know a lot of friends who doesn't know how to sketch, and they're doing film design, they're doing face design, they're doing a lot of other design, and they don't know how to sketch. The sketch is just a medium to use their idea on paper. So don't confuse with sketching. Like if you don't know how to sketch, you can still go for design. So don't confuse with sketching. Sketching is just a skill. Design is thinking. It's a thinking process. How you react to a situation is design. So don't confuse with that. Then inspiration mainly, like if you're doing product design, so the phone, our laptop, everything around us, the products we use is designed by product designer. It's a course. So basically the design is bachelor in design. That's what I learned. So in that we do a lot of things. Like we in the first year itself, we go out of the college, we went around, we go to small villages in India where it's developed, and we talk with people, we talk with problem, we solve with what they need. So that's what we do basically. So that's what we do. So then brainstorm different corn thoughts. We have and how you do it.
Okay, Marwa, thank you so much for that answer. I think so. There's a problem with your connection. We couldn't hear you speak at the last part. But yeah, yeah, thank you for that answer. Next question for Kellington. Since you've applied for Cnaq, right, a university here in Qatar, so what other universities did you apply other than Cnaq to for mechanical engineering? And also, what all requirements did you do, and what exams like SAT or ACT, IELTS, and all of that that we need to take, be it in 12 year or even in 11th year? Um, yeah, so for the application process.
Uh, yeah, so basically, if you have decided to study in Qatar, do your further studies in Qatar, one of the important things I would advise you is to start applying early. Like maybe in your second semester, in your 11th grade, this would be an ideal time to apply to get into universities and colleges in Qatar. So, well, if I have to start this story, then I have to go to my 11th, what I was doing in my 11th. So basically, I was never sure of what field to go into to studies. So I was confused between commerce and science as well. And you know, my parents, they were very cool about whatever field of study I had to choose. So, and in fact, my mom even, she told me that day, like, if you want to do commerce, it's totally fine. If you want to do science, it's totally fine. It's always your call. And I took science, and I was kind of passionate when I started. I was kind of passionate into becoming a civil engineer, and the only university that offers civil engineering course in Qatar is Qatar University. So I did try to apply into Qatar University, but it was kind of late, and I was applying after 12th grade got over. So that's something that you have to always look at when you're applying to study in Qatar. Make sure you start applying like from your second semester in 11th itself. And to get into, to apply into Cnaq, you need to make sure that you have your mark sheets, your certificates from high school, all of these things attested from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And that's one of the other important things you need to do when you're applying into Cnaq. And you don't need to write IELTS, SAT, and these kind of exams when you're applying to CNAQ. Once you apply, you have to write an entrance exam in English and math for CNAQ. And once you score well in these exams, you would be considered for a position over there. So yeah, again, my biggest advice is when you're starting to apply, make sure you're starting to apply well ahead of time. So yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Kellington, for that reply. And also one question, are you right now working or just you just finished your degree, right? And currently working. Are you planning to apply for masters or in the future for that?
See, the field of engineering, it's always, what to say, your experience matters a lot when you're working in the field of engineering. So, you know, there are like, you don't necessarily have to do masters unless, you know, you want to do it, you can do it. It's totally your call. But what I would advise is you can do your bachelor's and also do these small certifications, which would really boost up your CV or resume for the oil and gas fields and even the HVAC industry. You know, the small certifications like maybe a small welding course or something, some certification like this would always be helpful in the engineering industry, especially in Qatar. And yeah, you should look into these kind of certifications that would go well with your degree, be it mechanical or civil, electrical, so and so.
Okay, thank you so much, Kellington.
Okay, so we have another question for Mr. Naveen. The question is getting an English degree hard? And what if you want to change from science to English, you know, in your later years when you're in 12th and like you have, so how would you do that?
Could you repeat the second part of the question?
Sorry. So the second part is if you suddenly develop an interest for English literature and you've taken the science stream as you have, and as like if you want to change from science to English literature, how would you actually do it?
Definitely. So let me first, see, difficulty when it comes to any academic discipline hinges on just two factors: your interest in it and how much hard work you are willing to put in it. To be absolutely frank with you, I had the greatest amount of interest when I was doing my science in 11th and 12th. But due to a variety of reasons, I perhaps wasn't willing to put the adequate amount of hard work into the degree. If you are truly interested in literature, then the difficult aspects of you will not come across as something hard. You will take it up as a challenge. And I'm sure everyone else on the panel will agree. I don't think there is no such thing as an easy degree per se. I think there are just hard workers and people who are not willing to work hard. So in that regard, English literature is, again, it's entirely based on your aptitude. If you have an aptitude for critical thinking, if you have an aptitude for finding comparisons, and if you have an aptitude for seeking connections, then English literature is definitely a good degree.
Thank you, Mr. Naveen, for your insightful help.
Philosophy.
You can continue.
Sorry, I think my connection broke a bit. To answer the second part of the question, you definitely can. In fact, one of the biggest advantages of, as things stand before the new education policy in India, for instance, comes into play, of being a science student, is you have the widest array of options to choose from. Because as a science student, you can leap into commerce, you can leap into the arts, you can also leap into other degrees. So if you have an interest in science right now in 11th and 12th, you can definitely look at bachelor's options, you can look at media studies options, those are good options to look at. If you develop an interest in literature during your, say, during your MBBS or during your BCom or during your BTech, you can also do. In my current Masters in English classroom, I have 3 students, 3 of my classmates did their BCom, 2 of them are engineering graduates, 1 of them is an engineering dropout, and 1 of them is pursuing after having pursued their MBBS. And a fifth one is this is one of my super seniors. They did their degree well after their career got over. They were 45 years of age and they decided to pursue. So one of the good things as literature as a degree is it's all encompassing and it's all welcoming. So if you develop an interest, you can join at any time. I hope the answer got through in the connection.
Thank you, Mr. Naveen, for your answer. It was truly eye-opening because, you know, some children really, they kind of take the science stream because of parent pressure or peer pressure. And then when they want to change it, they really need to know how to do it. So thank you. You've definitely saved a lot of careers today.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you, Sherry and Naveen. Thank you. So Dr. Nandita, here's a question for you. I hope so you can answer. Yeah, with your connection. But yeah, it's regarding about pursuing medicine, right? I mean, like even including me myself, I might consider taking medicine as well, and also my fellow friends, my fellow classmates. But regarding the NEET exams, um, one of the questions was, how did you do in your NEET exams? Was it easier or harder than you expected?
Uh, I hope my internet connection is fine.
Yeah, we
And
can hear you.
to get into this medical field, all you have to do is to crack the entrance examination. And in India, and it is considered to be one of the toughest examination in the world. Actually, it's not only a matter of India. And for to get inside a government medical college, you will have to score a good rank. And for that, the knowledge that you gain from school is very much worth of it, but also you will have to go for 1 year entrance coaching, because I think that's the best. uh, uh, Although you will have to spend 1 year for your entrance coaching, it's for the good, I think. So for me, after 12th, I went for 1 year entrance coaching, and that was not an easy task. You will have to study a lot because there are lakhs and lakhs of students waiting to get inside this medical field. So once I got inside this, I was very happy and very much thrilled. And we have 4 years along with 1 year of internship. And here I am, completed my MBBS degree. But now again, I'm appearing for another entrance examination, that is for my post graduation, which is again a really tough examination. So the journey in this medical field, it's continue like this with all the examinations and with all the study troubles. But it doesn't matter once you have that willingness inside you. And once you completed post graduation, there is another examination waiting for you, that's your super specialty. So this field is full of updation and full of indulging into your study work, and it's enjoying actually. I hope it helps you. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Nandita, thank you. Also, one more question is, since the medicine is quite challenging and it also takes quite a bit of years in pursuing in even getting a bachelor's degree, right? And one question is, I'm actually seeking for advice on those students who are actually desiring or aiming to pursue medicine in the future. What advice would you give them? With regards also to their study habits. Um, yeah.
So to talk about myself, my journey through this medical field, that's only the advice I can give you right now. I was always into this medical field right from my childhood. So to get into this medical field, you will have to focus more on your basic subjects, that is physics, chemistry, and biology. The thing which you study in 11th and 12th matters a lot in your entrance examination. And you have to keep that passion inside you. If you are going for this medical field, then you must feel that yes, I can. And there is nothing called impossible nowadays. The only thing is that of course the entrance examination is tough, but once you are fully into this medical field, of course you can achieve it, and it's not a really big task. And do not rely on others. Do not go for all those stagnating thoughts, okay, whether I will get it or not. Just go for it. Just go for entrance examination right after you complete your 12th standard. And if you don't get it, just go for 1 year entrance coaching. Of course you will get it, because you are one of the students of Shantiniketan Indian School, and I think it will help you a lot in achieving your success. Just be passionate about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Nandita.
Thank you.
So we have one more question, and it says, some universities offer engineering courses with foundation course and without foundation course. Is taking an extra year for foundation courses worth it? Okay, Miss.
Yeah, this question is for Kellington, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, so foundation courses. I mean, see, this whole point about, taking a year off, taking a year break, rediscovering yourself, doing some extra certifications. I mean, obviously, this adds to your timeline, to your entire timeline. Some of us, want to have a job already by the age of 23 and 24. But my advice to people with, these kind of doubts is never put yourself into comparison with others. Like, a simple example is one of my friends, and even me. I studied in Cnaq, and I got my degree from UK in Portsmouth, and I've already got a job, and it's almost going to be a year into the job field. So I landed myself in a job by the time I was 22 itself. So, and the one who studied in Qatar University, he's still looking for a job. So don't compare yourself with anyone or to anything. Your timeline is totally dependent upon you. I mean, you have to do what you think is right for you, and yeah, just if you want to go for a foundation course, go ahead with it. You're going to score better in the university exams and all these things. But if you feel like, no, I don't want to waste a year, I just want to go ahead and start my university, that's fine as well. You can go ahead with that. Just the more you compare yourself to another individual's timeline, you're going to be stuck in your own timeline. So just go with the flow, do what you want to do. And if you are unable to do what you want to do, then you have to love what you're doing. So it's as simple as that. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Kellington. Now, what we really understand is pushing that extra mile, doing that little bit more of hard work will really get you what you desire, and success will surely follow. Also, don't compare yourselves with others, because if you compare yourselves with others, you're not living up to be them. You're trying to make a name for yourself. So always focus on hard work and keep working hard.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sharia. I think so the best challenge is actually challenging yourself, and actually you yourself pushing harder and to just really crossing those limits. Because it's possible, anything is possible, right? So yeah, the next question is for you, Pooja, again, regarding your fashion communication degree, right? So can you tell us the scopes for the course of fashion communication? And also you can proceed with that question. And also one question, okay. Does fashion photography also goes under the film industry? Yeah.
Yeah, I would really love to answer that question. So does fashion photography, fashion courses do go into film industry? Yes, maybe if your interest goes into it, yes. Because honestly, any design school or any design university you're going to go to is not going to teach you that this is how you do things. If you're doing space designing, they're not going to tell you that this is necessary, you have to keep this there. They're not going to teach you or spoon feed you anything, and they're going to leave it up to you. You have all the freedom to execute your ideas, your anything you want to do. There's no right and wrong. And that's one thing I love about designing, is there's no right and wrong. All you need to do is sell your product. As a communication designer, all I have to do is sell my product and sell my concept. Selling my concept is the main thing. And from photography to filming, yes, it is an easy link, but although there are a lot of major differences as well, but I think it's the eye that you need to have for it. I mean, the way you look at things, it really matters. It really matters. And you will get that along the 4 years of designing. Yes, you will get it for sure. And I myself consider going into cinematography in the later future, hopefully. My interest lies toward art direction and cinematography. So yes, absolutely, you can go into the film industry after doing communication design or fashion photography or anything. It's the will you need to have and the interest you need to have. And yeah, you can really do anything after anything. It's just if you want to do it.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Pooja. And also just the creativity of your artwork that really attracts them, right? Right. So also one more question
Yes.
about focus for fashion communication. Can you tell more about that?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What are the scope for fashion communication?
All right. So fashion communication is actually a very vast area. Fashion communication is basically being a mediator between your designer, your brand, and your audience. You convey everything in between. Whatever in between happens, it's the communication designer that does that. And what fashion communication really is, yes, we do focus on fashion media thinking, graphic designing and space designing. These are one of my these are my majors. And other than these subjects too, we have a lot of marketing as well, like digital and social media marketing that's upcoming as well. I mean, now that everyone's sitting at home, I think this is the way marketing is going to be in the future. And yeah, we really mostly for classes and everything, we mostly don't have any lectures or anything. We have one semester that goes on for 6 months, and we work on one project for 6 months. So it does really take up all your energy, but at the end, it's going to be so worth it looking at your own result and the own hard work you put into your work. It's going to be the best feeling, trust me. And yeah, it's a really wide scope of area. In career options, I would say that after doing this course, you have a lot of career options in content writing, digital social media marketing, in graphic designing, in space designing, in virtual and even augmented reality and virtual. We study about that too. 3D space designing. There's a lot of options. So I'm so sure after this course, you're going to get confused on what to go into, because every field in itself is so interesting and so upcoming as well. So yeah, you have a lot of options after this course. You're not going to stick to one thing for sure. I hope that answers it all.
Yeah, I do agree with that kind of shift towards online and just full of like digital world actually.
Yes, digital is the new thing now, and that's what.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like I do think so. Like a lot of us students do consider opting for that kind of career as well. So yeah, thank you so much for that advice. Thank you, Pooja.
Now we have a question again from Mr. Naveen. So now as a freelancer, is it beneficial working for multiple jobs, or is it better to stick to one job at a time?
That's I assume the question is about multitasking, because it's all about finding that sense of balance personally. I, I have my own personal formula that I go with based on how I know how I'm able to work, that I never take more than three projects at a time. wherein if one project is too challenging, I can move to the next one. If the second one is too challenging, I can move to the third one. But if the third one is too challenging and I move to a fourth one, I'm just procrastinating on two more projects, which in the professional environment you cannot afford to do, because the freelance economy works purely on deadlines and on delivering on time and if possible ahead of time. So that's my advice with regard to that. And it's definitely beneficial because of COVID-19, a lot of advertising revenues were cut. So some of my regular income sources were almost halved. So in that scenario where it was it's always irrespective of what you're doing in life, it is always great to have multiple streams of income. The adage goes, never put all your eggs in one basket. So in that regard, it's always good to have one source of income or the other, because despite me losing a vast chunk of my projects from my regular clients, because I had other avenues. For instance, I also do freelance IELTS training and language coaching and the corporate gigs I mentioned earlier. In some cases, I work with NGOs and social services to promote their products or promote the services they offer, give them advertising perhaps. So because you have multiple sources of income, you diversify your options, so you're not exactly hit hard. So in that regard, it's definitely good. And also in some regard, freelancing is more liberating than having one steady thing, but it's not. Again, there's an Indian obsession with having stability, which is obviously necessary. There is something comforting about the knowledge that every month, at the end of the month or at the start of the month, a bulk sum is going to enter into your bank account. There's comfort in that. I cannot deny it. However, that comes with its own challenges. Most freelancers I know who are at the top of their game can afford to take 1, 2, 3 months off and then return to it and can have that flexibility which a traditional career may not offer them. So in that regard, it's definitely better to have multiple freelance jobs than one stable career. There was a question about YouTubing. In that regard, yes, being a YouTuber, being a social media influencer, being a content creator is great, but that comes with its own challenges. We cannot ignore that. Wherein, if at one time all your clients do not give you may be stuck with many days without it. Whereas in a traditional career, so those ups and downs are there with anything. But again, I think it's all about trying to find out who you are. That's why I said try to get into a freelance ethos if possible, if you have the time and the luxury while you're in your college itself, and see if it's something that appeals to you. Because if you find that balance, then you're getting two things. Number one, you're getting a sense of, okay, when I eventually work, I know I can multitask. Or you can understand, okay, this is not my cup of tea, but at least I earn this income to make me relatively independent, and I do not have to rely on my parents or on my student loans. So again, it's all about mixing and matching and finding your inner soul and your inner worker and seeing what balance. But my advice is always that at a time, try your best never to go at 3 projects pending at a time. It's something that school taught me with pending homework and pending assignments. And it's actually something that looking back, I've carried forward. So 3 projects at a time, try to always meet your deadlines. If not, go ahead of the deadline. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Mr. Naveen, because you should always know when to hold your cards and when to show them. And obviously, if you have a diverse source of income, no one expected this COVID-19 situation, at least not to this extent. And if you had a diverse source of income, it's probably better for you than having just, all your eggs in one basket, like you said. And yes, obviously, to not increase the numbers of projects you get, you need to keep aware of your mental health as well, because keeping sane is more important than making the money, obviously. So thank you, Mr. Naveen. That was a wonderful answer.
Yes, thank you, Naveen. One question for you, Marwa, regarding as well for freelancer, and you taking the course of design. What do you think are any kind of like degrees needed for freelancer? Yeah, I hope
so.
Yeah.
So there is a trend right now, like if you know a software, like if you know how to use Photoshop, then you are a graphic designer, or if you After Effects, then you are designer. So like means like if you are really into design and if you have a proper degree, then there's a lot of positions. So you can just set up your own studio, you have your own place for work, and then you can take a lot of freelance project and do it for all these. So all these design courses actually work for freelance. So you have more contacts. The main thing that I got from taking this degree is we have more connection in LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a website where you use for connections to get jobs. So I used LinkedIn for 1 week and I got a job within 1 week. So he found me in LinkedIn and he asked me like what are my skills are and what is my degree. So because of my name tagline MIT Institute of Design and the tagline transportation design, without even knowing me, he already chose me. That's how like the freelance work. So right now I can choose whether to work as a freelancer or whether to consider it as a job. So I have like, because of my degree, I have this power, or design is an identity. So for me, when I say I'm a designer and I have this special course in design, whatever I do is design then. So if I want to write something, I'm a designer who writes. If I want to do something differently, I'm still designer who do that thing. So design is an identity or an open path to do different things. So if you want to be a freelancer, you can just take some Photoshop or something and learn and try to do it right now and see how does it work. And if you have a proper degree, actually this degree helps a lot to reach in higher level. So when they see, like, there's only few colleges that provide bachelor in design in India, and in Qatar it's BFA. If you're applying in Qatar, it's Virginia University of Fine Arts. So there also, so there's only limited college in the world which provide the proper degree in design, so which opens a lot of path. And this community is shorter, like not all the graphic designer who took diploma within 3 months or anything, they are not proper designers. So the people who analysis and think a lot about design, they are designers. So if you have this degree in your hand and you're applying for freelance, there's a lot of variety of scope for you. So I think, like, if you like to think about a situation, if you like to sketch something, if you like to explore the world in different view rather than sticking to one thing, you can be a designer. So like even in our design college, we just give like a course for 3 months. So you get a like how the freelance works. So you get a deadline, you get a project review, you get deliverables, whatever you have to deliver within this timeline. You just have to do it, and that's how you pass the college. You don't have exams, you don't have books, you just have your space. You don't have to come to college every day. You can go anywhere, do your work, submit on right time. That's how freelance work. So within 4 years, you are trained to be a freelancer. So if you are good enough to stabilize your timing, to learn about yourself, to explore your pathways, because I took transportation design where I sketch cars and bikes, and now I'm working on two-wheelers in electric mobility, and I can still do motion graphic, I can still do graphic design, I can still do interior design. Like, I'm a lot of design, I'm capable to do anything in design within these 4 years, which because I learned in that way. So there is no structured books or theories that you have to follow. So you can just, if you want to do something, do that. That's what design provide you. Design is a platform. This college brings all these weirdos from everywhere, put you in one place and tell you like do whatever you want. So it's like you can go there, do your stuff, show to people. You get juries we get every end of the semester we have jury. So in that jury we show to people what we done. And for my 6 months I worked with Honda and DS Mobility in Paris, where I showed them like where I worked more of like a sponsored project, which is also kind of freelancing. So it's more of like connected. So in there I got these connections. With this connection I can enlarge my freelancing and work further. So that's how degrees support in freelancing. So if you want to be a designer and do freelancing, set up your own studio and make your name in the industry, it's super cool if you have your degree. And for that degree, you don't really need to do science, commerce. There is no stream. Nobody asks for a 12th grade. If you just pass your 12th grade, you can still get into a degree. And the exam is pretty cool. You just have to know what the colors are, how to do a logo, how to understand design. That's it. There's nothing more. It's pretty cool and pretty easy way to get into what you're looking for. And all you have to need is creativity, creative thinking, analyzing, not to settle to any point, just explore, like question everything that's in front of you, every culture in front of you, every food that you eat, and then you become a designer. Because everyone is a designer, right? And we don't really think in that perspective, because this course is pretty rare, because there are only 16 people in my department, and I'm the only girl in my in my department. So you know how rare this course is. And by ending of it, I got a call from one of the startups and asked me like, can you contact us, or can you help us with this design? And I'm taking care of that. So, and all I have is that they gave me a project for 2 weeks, and they don't call me, or there's no proper timeline. I'm just doing the work, and I'll submit it within 2 weeks, and it's pretty cool. So like if you are someone who can't restrict with 9 to 5 job, and you don't want to settle into the normal daily life where everyone lives, and you just want to live your own, follow your path line, then design obviously is the pretty cool option for you. And because there's a lot of design opportunities other than just fashion design, so I think you guys, everyone should explore the proper varieties of design possible and search for it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Marwa, for that advice. And honestly, it's really, really good to hear all of those opportunities that you've got throughout your career, right? And
Yeah,
yeah, I think
it's
so. You
like
still have a
within,
lot of projects, of course, coming on way. And
yeah.
just how you're really stressing on freedom and just the ability to express whatever you want. I think so. That's really, really cool, just as you said. But yeah, so thank you so much, Marwa. Thank you.
Now a question from Mr. Kellington. The question is, what are the major courses that CNAQ offers?
So basically, there are 4 schools in CNEQ: the School of Engineering, School of Business, School of Health Science, and School of IT. So you get it. Like, these are the 4 main departments over there, and underneath each department, there are different courses available. So if you go into the School of Engineering, you have mechanical, you have chemical, you have electrical, and you also have the and then you can also, when you go into the School of Business, there's a lot more like HR, accountancy, finance, and IT, and School of Health Science. So basically there are just mainly 4 schools, and underneath these 4 schools there are various courses.
Thank you, Mr. Kellington. Actually, it reminded me of Hogwarts, the 4 houses. And really, so that just goes to show how diverse, our future is, and how many things that we can be doing if we work hard. So really, opportunities are everywhere. You just need to have the right the wavelength, the right frequency to look for them. Thank you, Mr. Kellington.
Yeah, and also about exploring options. I think so. It is really important to do our own research, right? Because there are a lot of like options. So yeah, another question for Dr. Nandita. Regarding the School of Medicine, right? How long did it take for you to get the MBBS? And also, is sports medicine a good option?
Okay, regarding how long I took, it is actually 4.5 years of MBA, and after 5 years, we have internship. We call it as how. And it will take around 5 years. Yes, you will have a lot of work experience from many hospitals, either from private hospitals, from government hospitals. And after MBBS, of course, you can go for post-graduation, which is again, you will have to go for
Oh, I think so. She got disconnected. Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Nandita. Unfortunately, we couldn't hear you answer properly that question. But yeah, moving on to the next question, Sharia.
Okay, so this question, really, all of us students relate to it on an almost spiritual level, all right? So we have 2 people who'd like to answer this. So first we'll have Mr. Naveen. The question is actually, if I blandly phrase it, isn't studying hard. But really, if you could tell us how to study effectively and, how to time manage properly, it would be, awesome. It would be epic of you.
Isn't studying hard? Again, I think I sort of addressed this earlier. The act of studying, it depends on you as a person. When I was doing my psychology in my bachelor's, there was an entire, I think it almost 3 week long chapter itself on memory and how memory works. And one of the main things we learned in that is there is no such thing as boring per se, or rather, just because something is boring doesn't necessarily mean it will put you to sleep. In fact, if you're sleeping in class or if you're sleeping while you're supposed to be studying, that's probably because you're not getting enough sleep or you're not. But the bare issue is that you're not motivated enough. So even before we come to all these techniques, you have to find a way to be motivated and interested in what you are doing and learning. On a school level, that a large onus of that is placed on the institute itself to make it engaging. There's a state of flow wherein something should not be too difficult, wherein the student loses attention and becomes anxious, nor too easy where the student does not, feel motivated to even do. So that's main thing. Try to find a way to be motivated or interested in what you do, and definitely in higher education, that's important. And second thing is to, well, there's a beautiful, in psychology, it's called the Goldilocks Principle, and you definitely must have heard it. It's from the tale of Goldilocks, wherein try to find a balance in whatever you do. One thing about studying, and of course, it differs from discipline to discipline. If you're studying for a competitive exam like clearing the NEET or the JEE, it's a different paradigm altogether. But generally, what works is to study effectively, work smart and not work hard. One of the basic things is divide your time. Sometimes it may not be effective at working 4 hours at a stretch trying to study something, because your attention at R1 and your attention at R4 is going to differ well. And studies have proven that. So make a schedule, divide your time, study in 45 minute segments with 10-15 minutes in the middle. So try to divide that. That's one effective way of studying. Another way that works brilliantly for me is to make mind maps, wherein you try to associate a difficult concept with something as outrageous and hilarious as possible. And that way you will remember it, if remembering is the issue. But increasingly, our educational paradigm itself is evolving. We are slowly moving away as the days go by into no longer for rote learning, but critical understanding. And specifically with the new education policy that the government of India has put forth, that move is, and I don't think any of you may benefit immediately, but in the future, maybe when you're in the higher education. I'm telling you frankly, irrespective of what field any of you get into, if you're getting into a field where studying is needed, it's not going to be textbook based. It's not going to be rote learning based. It's all about acquiring skills and applying them. So in that sense, studying hard has to do with how we are able to work hard and acquire the skills. And that's how you'll likely get it. So those are my simple techniques. I would suggest you to look at things called mnemonics, mnemonics, mnemonics and heuristics. Heuristics are mistakes that people often make, psychological errors while studying, and mnemonics are techniques to study more effectively. So these two things may help you, and they may give you a broader technique. I hope that helps.
It sure will, Mr. Naveen. So as you can see, we need to maintain that balance, and it differs from person to person, discipline to discipline. You also said that it will be beneficial if we make mind maps and if we use mnemonics. And we have Miss Marva as well to answer this. We see how helpful our seniors are and how much they care for us. So if Miss Marva can also answer this question, it'd be great.
So answering in the perspective of design. So mainly studying doesn't really exist in design. So we majorly observe things. We understand how it react to its surrounding, and that's how it works. So mainly, like, the way we taught how to study is really not fruitful for everyone. So we need to understand like how one thing exists, and we need to observe from its root. So like when you see how a plant grows, from to how to replant this plant, how to make it more productive. So I'm talking about the practicality of studying or learning things. So I'm talking like not from reading a textbook. I'm talking about going to nature or going to a situation and learning things out of it. So I'm not saying studying is hard. I'm saying it's understand the situation, understand where you are. If you are sitting in a class and someone is teaching you, understand why you are there and what he's teaching or what's the perspective of that situation, handle the situation, analyze the situation, and respond to the situation. So I'm telling you, like, I think I'm complicating the thing. I'm saying is, like, if you want to study how to sketch, suppose, so you look at a picture and you sketch the entire thing on the book and you call yourself an artist. But the problem replaces, if someone asks you to sketch again, you possibly don't know how to sketch because you don't have a something to assist you. So there problem exists a problem. So that's a problem. Like when you sketch something, looking inside a picture, you're not putting inside your brain, you're not analyzing the picture, you just replacing the memory that's sketched inside your brain. So if you want to learn something, if you want to learn how to draw, don't draw exactly what's in front of you. Draw something out of it. So if you want to learn something inside a situation, learn how to grow out of it. Grow out of the box. Learn out of the box. So don't put yourself, like if you want to learn maths, think about what's the possibilities of the maths, or what are the other things that comes around with it, or like analyze the situation, think about how to take it further. So it makes more challenging to you, and it makes more easier way to handle it, and it stores inside your brain. So you don't really need to restore it again to write it down. You just get the situation ready, you just write inside your words and write it down. You don't have to by heart anything, you just put your words down. So like most of the people just bug everything inside and just pop it up. So that's a major part of what's wrong with our education system. So we're not practically learning anything, we're just unlearning actually. I mean, you're supposed to understand why you're doing this. Within all these years, you're supposed to, within all this school life, you're supposed to learn how to live in a society rather than just studying. So in the perspective of design, I'm saying like go to school in a way that you are being with people and how the people respond in front of you and learn from that. I think most of the people miss these things these days from online learning. So I'm saying is, what education teach you. Like for me, when I look it back to my college life, I'm not saying, I'm saying like whatever I learned as theories or practicality or those written books, more than that, I learned how to behave in a situation. I learned how to use my money properly. I learned how to be with people and talk effectively. So in my way of what is studying for me is be who you are and be open to a situation and handle it. So that's design taught me. That's what's studying for me right now. That's my perspective of studying.
Thank you, Ms. Marwa. What it really taught us is that they're not just book smarts, there are street smarts. So instead of how quickly you can crunch numbers, how quickly you can memorize a textbook, you should really be looking at how you spend money, how you save money, how you do things that actually make you a human and not an animal. So basically what you need to understand is how you can move ahead from your, after all your academics, when you need to get the harsh reality of life, you need to understand how you take it and how coolly you can keep it going. So thank you, Ms. Marwa and Mr. Naveen, for answering that question.
Yes, totally agree with you, Sharia. On to the next question. We have few more questions, I believe. So this next question is for Pooja. So does fashion photographer and hairstylist have anything to do in connection? And also, what do you consider the most important facts of the fashion industry?
Right. Do photographers and hairstylists have anything to do in common is the question, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we can take that.
Yeah, they're completely two different jobs. But but as a photographer, you can definitely tell what changes are to be made onto the screen of how the hair looks and how. So it's all planned. It doesn't happen just like that, okay, let's just do some hairstyle and get done with the picture. It doesn't happen that way. There's an entire sketch that's been made to make sure that the look looks right on everything, because after that it's going to get published somewhere, right? If it's a magazine or it's any print book or anything, right? So looking from that perspective also, you need to give out certain opinions as a photographer. Then if I'm doing an editorial shoot and then I'm just making the hair look something not so editorial, but then if my concept is in a certain way, then yes, I can sell that out. But yeah, I mean, they do have a lot in connection, but they're different jobs, I would say. And can you please repeat the second question?
Sure. The other question is, what do you consider the most important facts in fashion industry?
The most important facts about fashion industry. It's a really interesting question because fashion industry is something that is going to come up with old stuff in a very new way. It's a loop. Fashion industry is basically a loop. You just you There was a retro time period. People were like, oh, that's fashion, and then we're coming back to retro again, and people like, oh, it's fashion. It's basically the trend. That the whole trend is what fashion revolves around. What people want is what fashion revolves around. Now again, like, even in fashion there are different types of fashion. Again, like editorial fashion, avant-garde fashion, then there is normal fast fashion. So everything is in a very different perspective. Now avant-garde clothes you obviously would not wear in the streets, right? They're made to be on the ramp. They're made for that purpose. And I still do questions like, why have you even made that? Why is that even made that way? Like, that's not practical. But there are some things, I personally believe that it's okay to be not practical also sometimes. Like, because honestly, like in the fashion industry, it's a huge industry, and your work matters. So even if you're doing anything avant-garde, if it looks great, if it's appealing from a distance, from a close by, you're there, you've done your work. But again, at the same time, uh, we even look at people and a society perspective, because again, now everything's coming down to sustainability. Now again, it's a loop. Sustainability is a loop. Fashion brands do claim that they're 100% sustainability, but trust me, not everything can be 100% sustainable. Because come on, I mean, it's a harsh reality that people need to face. But yeah, again, society perspective do matter as well. But at the same time, you need to merge those ideas with your own ideas and make it come together as one, so that everyone's happy, you are happy, and it's out there. So yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Pooja. Unfortunately, that will be our last question for this session. So yeah, thank you once again to all of you alumni for sharing your experiences and advices. Now I'd hand it over to Lamia.
Thank you, Dimeline and Shaurya. That brings us to the end of today's event. On behalf of the SIS family, I take honor in extending our deepest gratitude to all our panelists for going down memory lane and joining us today. I thank the SIS management, our principal, vice principals, head teachers, Mr. Sham and Mrs. Nihala for their coordination and efforts to make this event possible. I also extend sincere thanks to our audience that has stayed with us throughout this session. We will hopefully be seeing you again next week for the third and final session of this webinar series. It will again, same time, next Thursday. It has been a pleasure moderating this event. Once again, thank you, God bless, and have a great night ahead.